The year is 1910. A young woman named Lime stands before a roaring crowd at a Shanghai university, her voice rising like a battle cry. "Wushu is not just fists and fury," she proclaims, her words slicing through the air. "It is the heartbeat of our ancestors, a dance of honor forged in fire." The audience leans closer, spellbound, as she begins the tale of a legend. Huo Yuanjia, the boy who turned weakness into wildfire. Decades earlier, in the dusty streets of Tianjin, a scrawny boy with eyes like smoldering coals watches his father, a wushu master named Huo Yuanjia, shatter stones with his bare hands. Young Huo's bones are brittle, his coughs rattling like autumn leaves. Bullies torment him, calling him kindling, for how easily he crumples. But Huo's spirit, unbreakable. Every night he steals glances at his father's training, mimicking the deadly elegance of wushu in secret, his small fists cutting shadows into the moonlight. His only ally is Dong Jinsun, a scholar whose nose is always buried in books. "Strength lives here too," Jinsun insists, tapping his temple. But Huo shakes his head. True power, he believes, lies in the crack of a perfect strike, the roar of a crowd, the sweat of victory. Then comes the day that splits Huo's life in two. A wushu tournament erupts in Tianjin, fighters clashing like titans. Huo sneaks in, heart hammering, to watch his father dominate the arena. Huo Yuanjia moves like a storm, fists a blur, until his gaze locks onto his son in the crowd. A split-second falter, a fatal misstep. The world stops. Huo's father falls. The victor's son, a hulking brute with a smirk sharper than a blade, spits venom. "Your bloodline is weak." Huo, trembling with rage, charges, untrained, unskilled, all fury. He's crushed in seconds, his face bloodied, his pride shattered. But as he lies in the dirt, something ignites in his soul. From that day, Huo becomes a shadow. He steals his father's worn wushu manual, training in moonlit forests and abandoned courtyards. He punches trees until bark sticks to his knuckles, kicks stones until his toes bleed. Every bruise, every drop of sweat is a vow. Years later, Huo strides back to that same arena. His fists are no longer kindling, they're thunder. The crowd holds its breath as he faces the boy who once broke him. This time, Huo's strikes sing with the ghosts of his father's legacy. This time the world will remember, and so Lime's voice crescendos. The years burned by, and Huo Yuanjia's name became a wildfire across Tianjin. His beloved wife perished bringing their daughter into the world, leaving Huo a storm of grief and rage. Now a man, he ruled his father's dojo with iron fists and a swollen pride. Victory after victory fed his arrogance. He craved titles like undefeated, invincible, a god among men. His mother's voice, soft yet unshakable, often whispered warnings. "Your greatest foe isn't out there, child. It's the demon in your mirror." But Huo scoffed. The world would bow to his strength. Then came Zhao Hu, a warrior cloaked in legend, unbeaten across 30 provinces. The challenge letter crackled in Huo's grip like a live coal. The duel would be a spectacle, the city's heart throbbing with crowds, the stage a web of wooden beams. Huo crossed them like a panther, Zhao Hu waiting with a grin sharper than a scimitar. The fight was brutal, glorious. Huo triumphed. His fame exploded. Fighters flocked to his dojo not for wisdom but for scraps of his glory. Hosted by his friend Jin's son, they devoured free food and drink, their loyalty thin as rice paper. Jin's son pleaded, "They use you. Your ambition blinds you." But Huo laughed, tossing coins onto mounting bills. "When I defeat Master Jin, all debts will vanish." The air thickened with tension. One dusk, Huo's students clashed with Master Jin's disciples in the streets. Huo's fury erupted. He shattered a wooden post with a single strike, splinters raining like daggers. His students trembled. But the next morning, their defiance crumbled. A friend lay broken, battered by Jin's men. Huo stared at the boy's wounds, his arrogance faltering. The storm was coming. And this time, it would not bend to his fists. The air in Jin's son's restaurant thickened like poisoned syrup. Huo stood trembling, his rage a hurricane as Master Jin chuckled, a sound like grinding bones. The guests froze, then scattered like leaves in a storm, leaving the two men circling like wolves. This was no duel, it was a slaughter. Blow after blow, Huo unleashed his fury. Master Jin staggered, defenses crumbling, but Huo showed no mercy. His strikes were not meant to defeat, they were meant to erase. When Jin finally collapsed, breath ragged, Huo stood over him, a conqueror drenched in shadows. The crowd outside whispered of madness. Triumph curdled into ash. Huo stumbled home at dawn, still reeking of blood and wine, only to find his world obliterated. His mother and daughter lay lifeless, their silence a scream. He crumpled. Blind with grief, Huo stormed Master Jin's home. The adopted son fell in a single strike, his eyes wide with unasked questions. Too late, the truth slithered out. Huo's drunken friend had spat venom at Jin's wife, igniting the violence. The real enemy hadn't been Jin or fate or even pride. It was him. Huo's soul fractured. He wandered Tianjin streets, a ghost in his own skin, the weight of his sins crushing him into the earth. Numb to the bite of winter, the scorch of summer, the hollow ache of hunger. His body became a map of scars, his spirit a hollowed shell. Then came the river, a slick stone, a plunge into icy darkness. When he awoke, it was to the warmth of a stranger's hearth. The villagers, their hands calloused from earth and toil, a blind woman whose kindness cut deeper than any blade. She fed him broth, washed the grime from his hair, and taught him the language of silence. In her presence, the ghosts of his past dimmed, but peace like sunlight never lasts. A village boy, desperate with grief over a stolen buffalo, ignited a feud. When the child was bound and beaten, Huo stepped forward, his voice steady. "Take me instead." The village enforcer, Tony, a man built like a bull, rained blows upon him. Huo did not block, did not strike back. Each fist that cracked his ribs, each kick that stole his breath was a prayer. A penance. Blood staining his lips until the crowd fell silent, shamed by his stillness. Months later, under a sky heavy with unshed rain, Huo bid farewell to Iman. Her blind eyes seemed to see straight into his soul. He returned to Tianjin as the Qing dynasty crumbled, foreign flags snapping like vultures over the city. "They tried to take this place," the uncle rasped, but Jin's son stopped them, paid the debts, protected what remained. Huo's throat tightened. He hurried to Jin's son's restaurant, only to be met with cold silence. "He's busy," a waiter lied. Forgiveness was a bridge not yet rebuilt. Huo turned next to Master Jin's widow. "I was blind," he murmured. She said nothing, but it was at his parents' graves that the final veil lifted. Kneeling in the dirt, Huo remembered his father's fatal match, not a lapse in focus, but a choice. Mercy. The realization struck like lightning. His father had fallen not from weakness, but from honor. A newspaper crinkled in Huo's hands later that day. Hercules, an American colossus, had branded China a nation of weaklings. The words burned. When Jin's son appeared, purse heavy with silver, his voice was steel. "Win," he said, "and all debts die with him." The arena trembled under Hercules' footsteps. The American loomed like a mountain, muscles coiled, sneering. Huo stood still, a willow in a hurricane. The first blows shook the air, but Huo danced, eyes sharp, fingers finding gaps in armor, a pinch to the ribs. A gasp. Hercules staggered, confusion flashing across his brutish face. Huo struck like water flowing, relentless. In that moment, Huo remembered his father's choice long ago, mercy over victory. This was not just a fight, it was the soul of Wusu. Hercules, pride wounded, roared like a wounded beast. His fists became hammers, his rage untamed. When Huo fell, the American lunged for the kill, but Huo rose, bloodied yet unbroken. A twist of the wrist, a snap of bone. The crowd held its breath, but Huo did not strike. The American froze, eyes widening as Huo lifted his own hand, not in attack, but in respect. "You are the champion," Huo declared, his voice cutting through the silence. Defeat had never tasted so much like victory. Later, beneath the haze of lantern light, Huo and Jin's son shared tea. Together they plotted to carve Wusu into the world's conscience, a dance of discipline, not destruction, but shadows loomed. The tournament's organizers, men in silk suits with greed-glazed eyes, whispered in backrooms, stacking bets like gold bricks. To them, Wusu was a circus, fighters mere puppets. Honor. A currency they'd never trade. The final act unfolded in Shanghai. A stage of sand and sweat, banners snapping like war drums. Huo stepped into the arena not as a conqueror, but as a teacher. First, an English boxer charged, fists like pistons. Huo dismantled him with grace. Next, a Belgian horseman, whip cracking like thunder. Huo moved like the wind and the man fell. Then came Tanaka, a Japanese warrior, his triple stick whirling like a storm. Steel clashed, sparks flying. Huo matched him blow for blow, even snatching the weapon mid-fight, turning Tanaka's own artistry against him. After the first round, the crowd erupted, but Huo's hands trembled. A sip of poisoned tea, offered by Japan's deceitful envoy, seeped into his veins. Black blood dripped from his lips. His disciple lunged for vengeance, but Huo gripped his arm. "Revenge is a fire that burns both hands," he rasped. Tanaka, sensing treachery, hesitated, but Huo staggered to his feet. "Fight me with honor," he demanded. The final round began. Huo's vision blurred, his legs buckling. Yet every time he fell, he rose, each stand a testament to Wusu's soul. With his last shred of strength, Huo unleashed a strike he'd sworn never to use again. In that moment, the Japanese warrior saw the truth. Huo had held back, choosing mercy over annihilation. Tanaka bowed, deep and solemn. "The victory is yours." Huo collapsed, a smile on his lips. At 42, his heart stilled, but his legacy erupted like a supernova. And there it is. Warriors, the epic conclusion of Huo Yuanjia's journey. His story proves that true strength lies not in fists, but in the fire of the spirit. If this tale ignited your fighting heart, smash that like button. Comment below with your favorite moment. Ring the bell so you never miss a knockout video. Until then, stay fearless and remember, the greatest battles are fought within.